back with another episode of All Black Men Need Therapy. My name is Chief.
And I'm Bell.
And Prentice doing whatever the hell he doing. There you go.
I'm here. I'm here.
And that's Prentice. Beside me is my lovely cousin, Rosa.
Hey.
Who is a multiple book author, writer extraordinaire, mother to everybody, owner, CEO of Reality Outreach Incorporated. She does a lot of shit, y'all. And then to my left is the beautiful Miss Lynnette Johnson. I was gonna run it off about what I know about Lynnette, but she sent me this cool ass little write-up, so I'm gonna read the shit and y'all can get a good chuckle out of it.
Either way.
She's a poet, a mother, a coach, a devastating diva, an actor, a taco connoisseur, a nap enthusiast, a safe space, a problem for sure, a lover of Black folks and Black culture. She's nosy. She talks Black, but she's sweet. She talks back, but she's sweet. Lynnette has several projects she's working on presently, and she may complete one day, but maybe whatever. That's who Miss Lynnette Johnson is. I know Lynnette. Lynnette and I have worked together in the past on a few poetry projects and whatnot, but she's super dope. And we invited Lynnette and Rosa on to talk about a topic that Bell and I tapped into in season 1 and didn't quite get correct. Well, not to say we didn't get it correct. We just didn't do it the justice it deserved. So, long story short, we had a conversation about light skin versus dark skin, and talked about our experiences via that vessel. However, I'm not very dark skinned, and he has the light skin jokes have come his way in the past. Prentice, I'm sure they've come your way too. We've talked about that, and I think we titled the episode Colorism, and then the homie AU, my man Oss, was like, yo, that's not it. Like, when you're talking about colorism, the people it traditionally and predominantly affects are darker skinned Black women. You know what I'm saying? So we was like, yo, we want to do the conversation justice by inviting some darker skinned Black women on to have a conversation. Now, I don't know how it's affected you guys, but before we get to that, we always do a check-in. So let's do that. Prentice, check in, homie.
You know what? I had one when I was driving home. Yeah, I got some. I realized I have some new issues that I need to work through, and I sound a little excited about it because I actually am, because I'm realizing the more work I do, the more issues I'm aware of about my life and myself. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm actually able to tackle them. So I think like the more I feed myself, the more I allow myself to go through these processes instead of running from them. More stuff is just falling on my plate to kind of like hash out. So I'm happy about that, man. Like that's progress for me.
That's what's up. I'm gonna piggyback right off of that before I get to you, Bell, and the ladies. I had a conversation with Bell today. We talked for like an hour and a half. We was vibing today, and it about some things, about some ideas off of them, but we kind of like dissected one another and kind of like, did you look at it this way? Are you this way? Did you ask yourself about this about yourself? And it was kind of like you said, it was real deep. We learned a couple things about yourself when you begin to process some things. And one of the questions asked was, he was like, do you think you self-sabotage? And I don't, but I'm starting to dig deeper into that and assess why things didn't work out or whatever, and then really point the finger at myself and what could you have done differently to see if it was actually some self-sabotage or some validity behind why I stepped away or why it didn't work out. So I think these conversations are imperative to have, and I was fortunate enough to have it with my homie rather than the mirror. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of cool. So we'll dig into that and maybe another episode. Bellhead.
So I just got back from Assembly Row out here, which is really nice, like super dope. So I'm still learning and exploring Boston. Assembly Row is in Somerville. It's a real nice area. But yeah, like that's really it. I ain't really got much going on. I think one thing I think that shows up in work, and I think to piggyback on our conversation today, I think we have to get, and this maybe could have been a final thought, but anyway, get more comfortable at breaking old paradigms, right? Like we're doing this way because that's the way we saw it done, or we're doing this way because that's the way we've always done it, right? But it's like, are we inspecting what we expect? You know what I'm saying? Like, are we really looking at, okay, what is the desired outcome from this? And are these actions going to get me that, bring me to that desired outcome? You know what I'm saying? And then we just got to ask them. If it's not, then hey, maybe we need to break that paradigm that's been consistent, right? I mean, it could be a learned behavior, it could be whatever, but just questioning that. And I think that's where our conversation today, Chief, that was like, you know, the tone of it, right? Like, hey, you know, those saying, what got you here won't get you there, right? So it's like, what are you doing different to affect change? And that's all. Like I was just out with drinks with one of my folks, and that was the level of conversation we were just having. So that's all. That's kind of where I'm at right now.
No doubt, ladies. I do apologize. I am a gentleman and would love to have let you guys go first, but I want to get us to go first. You kind of see what the check-in looks like, and then allow you to kind of jump in. It's non-topic related per se. Just kind of, you know, where you at right now, how you feeling, how you doing, what mental space you living in. Quick check-in to make sure we good. Lynnette, feel free.
Sure. So I think I expressed earlier, I had an attitude for a greater portion of today. And Chief asked if a man was behind it. And the truth is no, but I was like, I feel like I can blame a man for it if I dug deep enough and connected the dots. But mostly I'm grateful for this. I love conversations. I love digging. And Belle, you asked one of my favorite questions. What is the desired outcome? I find I live with that question. Like, what is it we want to happen at the end of this? So I'm coming into this enthusiastic and curious and excited to talk to Black people because y'all are my favorites.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cousin, what's up?
I think I feel the same way. This is like unfamiliar territory for me. I've been surrounded by children for like the last year, good and bad things, you know. I mean, challenging and blessings all in the same, but the fact that I get to have this conversation right now is good. I feel like I'm with grown-ups. I got grown people time right now, and I'm gonna enjoy it.
Grown people time is definitely important for sure.
Hey, but just pause real quick. Just think about that for a second, right? Everybody's excited. All that tells me is we just don't do this enough as Black people.
Right.
Right. That's it. Right. Like, not good or bad. It's just we just don't do it enough. You know what I mean? And I think any type of conversation, you know, is healthy, right? Even if you don't agree with the person, right? I feel like, and I had sent this to a group chat with all my old teammates recently. Like, let's leverage our resources. You know what I'm saying? I just don't feel like we do it enough, man, as Black people. Like, that's all. That's my 2 cents. I won't keep talking about it.
Agreed.
No doubt. All right. So, I mean, we can jump right into it. And the conversation again was about when we initially did the episode, we just talked about our experiences with colorism per se, and just how color has played a part in our lives. And for me, I'm not, you know, the darkest skinned Black man, you know what I'm saying? But I was telling Lynnette today, like, I consider myself chocolate. Other people are like, nah, you're not chocolate. If you put a Snicker bar next to my arm, it's the same color. You know what I'm saying? But they be like, nah, you not chocolate. You know what I'm saying? Like, you caramel. Like, nah, my homie Bell more caramel than I am, but you know what I'm saying? So it's crazy how kind of we perceive that and whatnot. But again, we wanted to do the ideal definition or the ideal premise of colorism, its due justice. And I think, you know, clearly we all know women run the world. So let's talk to the Black women and see what their thoughts are about it. Has it? I know this is not like my play cousin, y'all. We like you know what I'm saying?
Right.
From inch high.
I knew him before he knew him.
Yeah, whatever. Anyways, yeah. So I've seen and witnessed the experiences, you know, just of her being teased about, you know, her color, you know, her lips or whatever as a child, and you know that shit comes into play. It affects you for a while. I think we've had this conversation like in the past about that. So I don't know how much you want to share with the people who are going to be listening, but give us a taste of some of the shit you've experienced just because of, you know, the color of your skin.
If I can,
yeah.
And only for my curiosity and for the sake of this particular conversation, can can I hear
Lynnette?
Lynnette?
Yeah.
Lynnette's experience
Okay.
first?
Hey, real quick, Chief, do you want to
I think we should define it.
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Do we have it in?
So yeah, so it's in. So again, guys, so we did this episode already and we deleted it. Because as Chief said, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, we didn't do it justice, right? So so basically the last episode started off was like, hey, today we're gonna talk about the divide that's been present in our community since slavery, quite frankly. And we're gonna discuss the origin, impact, so on and so forth. So the origins of this, and again, guys, this is just stuff we did before, but I just want to read it just so that the audience understands. So we didn't just show up here with light skin. So where did the divide come from, right? That's the question. So one part of history is that is well documented, is how ancestors were raped and impregnated by the slave masters, right? Like that's well documented, right? In addition, you know, some of the quote unquote house Negroes was also knocking off some of the wives, right? Like, so anyway, so then that's where the term mulatto comes from, right? And for those who don't know, the term mulatto comes from, the definition is like when you mate a mule and a donkey, right? That's where the slave owners and all of that, that's where that all came from. So my point is, as time goes on, then, you know, people become lighter, right? If you have European DNA and African DNA, obviously, it's going to lighten up your bloodline in some cases for years to come. So that's where it all came from, right? We all know we came here on a boat from Africa, and when we all came here, we were Black, and then now I'm lighter skin, right? Prentice is lighter skin, so on and so forth. So that's kind of how it started, if you will. And as a result, and again, more history, the lighter your skin was during those times, the closer you were to the house, right? So there was a perception that the light skin, the AKA house niggas, they were better than the field niggas, right? And again, these are the terms that were used during that time. But so that's where the divide starts, right? Like one, what was that, Rose?
In America.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, one group are in the fields all day working in 100-degree temperatures, and another one's in the house, right? Both are slaves. Now that's the part that's crazy. Both are slaves, right? But one thinks one has it easier than the other, and whether it's right or wrong, that's where the divide comes from. So then now that's where the what's the word I'm looking for? The depictions of people with lighter skin and compared to people with darker skin, like who they are as a person based on their skin color. And that's in essence colorism inside the Black community, right? Putting one.
Go ahead, Prentice.
I was gonna say, I think it's good to add too that it was an excellent, brilliant strategy on behalf of white folks to create a divide within our own people and then to develop subgroups, right? So that's how, you know, we get to a lot of space that we in now, because now when you place one group of Black folks against another in a level like hierarchy, you have the bickering that happens within the Black community. And then that perpetuates to, you know, where we are now with colorism and a lot of things we see in media.
Lynnette?
Yeah. So yes. And I think that's a great place to start. And also, I think also so where we started with, what did you want to hear? My experience with colorism, or we just spitballing?
Let it rock, shorty. What's on your spirit?
Let's hear it. So my first thought with colorism, I think, you know, I've been Black my whole life. And I think you learn early what is preferred. You know, sometimes people are saying something direct, But I remember getting my hair pressed. I was probably about 5. My mother didn't do no hair, so I was going to the hairdresser early. And I remember getting my hair pressed, and the woman kind of fussing up under this wig. My hair is deep. What do I call it? Somebody called it black power fist hair, like it curls up tight, right? And it's strong and it's resistant to chemical. You know, it grows up. And so I remember getting my hair pressed and then really fussing about, oh, this girl probably needs to get a perm because blah, 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 blah. And then when I was all done, just making like, oh, you look so much better now. And I remember these 2 little girls came in right behind me. And I don't know if they were Latina or biracial, but they were very fair. And their hair was curly and they got these Shirley Temple curls. And I remember the way the place just kind of erupted. I couldn't have been more than 5. And I was like, oh, we got a similar hairstyle, but they are getting Beyonce applause, you know? And so I remember recognizing that very young. And I think it's important to point out that some of the differences between the slaves who were in the house and outside, like, it was all horrendous. And the people inside had proximity to white people in a way that they had access to learning and etiquette and opportunity that extended for hundreds of more years. So I think that's kind of the root of it. But it's more than how we feel about each other. Like, there are documented statistics of the impacts with housing and the impact with sentencing and even adoption. Like, a dark-skinned little kid is less likely to be adopted by a family than a more fair-skinned. So I think it's heavy and it's a big deal. And as a Black woman, I think the way it is shown up the most for me is probably around dating and seeking partnership. And I feel like that's where I could probably point to the something that is the most distinct. But as far as feedback, I got told, you know, okay, I think y'all been in the sun a little too long. Oh, y'all got Black. And also featureism. So I feel like also, I know we're sticking to skin, but I also think hair has always been a part of it. And so you're seeing me today. This is my look today. It changes frequently with the wind. Anything could happen. But I got a lot of feedback that let me know the way that my hair grows naturally out of my head was not the most desirable thing. And so you are managing that constantly and telling yourself a different story. And hopefully there's like family members who are supporting it. So in my immediate family, they didn't play that shit. And really, I got no feedback about what I look like. It was like, you're smart, you're a good thinker, you can dance, you're a conversationalist. I did not, nobody ever talked about what I looked like. It was outside of the house that I started to get, oh, this is better. You are right, but this is better. Up there.
Oh, is that now, as a whole ass adult with a child and whatnot, is that something that still plays a part in your mental, or have you conquered that and just confident who you are and able to just glide on?
I think what I was able to recognize early is, oh, this is a problem for some people. I don't think it was ever a problem for me. I do think I had to do some negotiation around hair, but I never remember feeling like there was something wrong with my skin. And I also think the spaces I grew up in, I experienced more specifically racism than colorism. So it's mostly like they would mix me up with the Guatemalan girl. We didn't look alike. It was just the 2 people who was white in the space. So that was a little more direct. But I think with my son, I don't feel like it's a burden. And I also surround myself with lots of like-minded people and people who see the world similarly. So we don't hear any immediate internal negative things. It's all celebration of Blackness. But I think in the media, sometimes I find myself frequently pointing out, like if I see a dark-skinned little girl with little puffs, I'll be like, isn't she beautiful, Elliot? Isn't she gorgeous? She's beautiful. Like I feel this emphatic need to make sure he can see the beauty everywhere and not just in one space.
That's what's up. So I know Prentice, I'm gonna jump to you real quick, P, since we're talking about, the slave days and getting the origin of it. Prentice has literally been called a house nigga, like literally.
Yeah. So there was a corny poet nigga by the name of Breeze who we were on set. I gotta figure his name out because it's just as uncalled for. So I feel like, one thing I think with colorism, I think we need to hold those accountable. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't just bicker. We need to put, just like we hold cops on blast for killing Black folks, we need to hold Black folks on blast for killing Black folks. And colorism is a way you can do that. Season 4 of the television show I was on, Versus the Flow, that Chief was on as well. Shout out to Versus the Flow. Around season 4, I started doing a bunch of like extra work. I was writing for them by that time, certain intros and dealing with production and not just performing. And when one of the poets noticed that I was doing things that other poets weren't doing, he looked at me, he was like, "Oh, you must be the house nigga of the show." And he's a very dark-skinned brother, has a very, some would consider it an intimidating look, kind of husky, kind of burly, dark-skinned brother. And it stuck with me for 7 years until I got the opportunity to address it through a poetry battle. I hadn't talked to him since. So luckily I had the opportunity to write a poem about it because it had been on my heart for like 6.5 years, but it really impacted me because this was my highest level of success at that time. Like, I had never experienced success like this. Television, doing things other poets weren't doing. I was entrenched in the show on a higher and deeper level. And then to have the darkest brother in the room look at me and just call me a house nigga as if to dismiss all the work I've done. You know what I'm saying?
So you got there by privilege.
Right. And in my experience with colorism, that's the only time I've heard something about me being light-skinned being used. Success in poetry, people contributed to my complexion or my looks. So I hadn't really experienced it.
Prentice, you keep muting yourself.
Definitely something that
You keep muting yourself, bro.
Nah, man, I'm getting a call, man. So
okay.
I may have to answer that. But it's something that I've had to deal with on an end of people contributing my success to my skin tone, which I take offense to.
For sure.
Can I ask a question here?
Go ahead.
Sure.
So I think it's an unfair. I think it was unfair of the poet Breeze. Is that what he said? It was to say it. Is it also possible that there are opportunities you have that someone who looks different wouldn't? And so this is what's interesting, and that, let's be real, for television and for what you look like has a lot, not even just television, in the world, what you look like has a lot to do with everything. And so I'm not saying you're not talented. I've seen you before. We've actually shared a stage before. It was many years ago. We can talk about it later. But I think that there are I think this is the way privilege works. And so I'm curious about the word colorism. When I think of colorism, I look at the same way as racism, and I don't see racism as something that can be reversed. And this is debatable. And so I also don't see colorism as something that can be reversed. I think we can be prejudiced, we can be insulting, we can be mean and disrespectful, but I think when a light-skinned person gets insulted for being light-skinned, it's not the same on the other side.
Okay, so I can
wait 1 second, Chief. What do you mean, Lynnette? Like, if the roles were reversed in the case of Prentice called Breeze a field nigga, you saying that it won't be received the same way?
I'm not saying it's not an insult. I'm saying, you know how and I don't know your view on this, because I've heard people say it both ways. So when I think of racism, I don't think of racism as something that goes like this.
I mean, it's a fact that if you're Black, you can't be a racist, and like we can talk about that another time too. But
right.
That's neither here nor there. But
right.
Yeah, it doesn't go both ways. I agree.
Right. And as a Black person, that doesn't mean I can't hurt a white person's feelings.
Yeah, you can be a bigot, you can be prejudiced, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But I can't impact their pay. I can't impact their mortgage. I can't impact where they live. I can't impact their opportunities.
Yeah,
for
racism is maintained through social institutions, and we don't run social institutions, so we can't be racist by definition.
Right. And so I see colorism as the same thing. So I'm not saying what dude said to Prentice was not wild and inappropriate. I think it's dismissive. I think there's also something that happens when you are dark and big and viewed as intimidating.
What I can say is, in response to that particular platform, there was, I think, 6 seasons, and Prentice was there from the very first one. Got an opportunity in the very first season, did his thing. They invited him back season 2, did his thing. Season 3, did his thing. Season 4, did his thing. Season 5, season 4, I think I got on to season 4. So I got there season 4, and you go there, you do your thing. I got invited back season 5, season 6. So you know what I'm saying? And me, I'm not, I'm not as dark as Breeze is, but I can say through that particular forum, they afforded the opportunity to people who went there and put in the work. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's solely attributed to Prentice being his shade is what earned him the level up, because there's been several within that organization who have leveled up just because of their talent and their work.
Certainly, and we're in agreement about that. I'm not suggesting he did not earn it or shouldn't be there. I'm saying sometimes there are doors that are closed to people who do not look like Prentice.
Absolutely. I sent a video to the fellas today about, it was a singing audition with some, I think Rick Ross and somebody else in there, like a light-skinned chick came up and she did a song, and it was okay. But then a darker skinned chick up and she did the same song, or a song on the same beat, and was light years better than the light skinned girl. I'm talking about light years better. Any ear could hear that it was better. And they pretty much was like, nah, you ain't got it. We'll put that video in the
yeah, it'll be on when we view Lynnette. So I think this is good, because I don't agree, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel colorism is, it can create an inferior complex in some, and a superior complex in others, right? Yeah. And I think depending where you are will determine, because like, for instance, right? And again, this is an example, and this is very general, but hypothetically, Prentice goes to Africa, right? Just hypothetically, right? And he happens to be lighter than everybody that's there, right? Actually, I'm gonna use the example in a reverse. A darker skinned person goes to a predominantly white school, and there's mixed kids there that are Black, but they're mixed. It's like, he can still have that same feeling that Prentice had in the reverse, right? So and the only reason why I don't agree is because, and hey, maybe I'm biased, right? Because
light skin,
because I'm light skinned, maybe, right? But I can see how it can. I look at them as equal, right? I look at since we're both Black people, I feel equal. I don't equate it to racism. And then again, it's my opinion. This is why it's good dialogue. It's my opinion. I don't equate it to racism because, like, as I said, all these things, like racism is a social construct, right? Like it's maintained through social institutions. Colorism is maintained through the Black community.
Thank you. Okay.
Right.
Right.
So cousin went over here itching. Let her get her shit off.
So it's like it's perpetuated by us, right? And it can be both ways.
Right.
So and again, right, this is healthy. Like I love to talk about it, but I just feel like it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in another. So that's just my opinion.
So go ahead, cousin.
No, you just answered a question for me. This whole time, I honestly was sitting here like, what is colorism? Like, when did we create this word amongst ourselves to create another injustice? Like, we didn't get enough of the fact that we already got it from all the other external and social constructs, but we've now created that same kind of community within ourselves, and we gave it a word, and it's called colorism. And I now know that, because up until right now, I had no idea that was the case. But I think I kind of understand where Lynnette is coming from, because prior to hearing this conversation, I was like, okay, we've been living this for generations, and I had to get the understanding. We're talking about America, because the truth of the matter is this happens in Africa among Africans.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I know y'all watched Hotel Rwanda.
Right.
This is real among our culture, and it has been prior to, you know, the departure of those who came over to America. So if we want to talk about it, we're gonna have to really get a little bit more educated, I think, before we start trying to even compare it to racism, because it's unjust no matter what. I mean, however you look at it, the injustice of it is the problem. So I'm excited to figure out when we're going to get to some of the how do we heal that within ourselves before we could start, you know, comparing it to.
It's like racism. I think there's an education component, right? Because all of this is learned behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's all learned behavior, right? Wherever it came from in your family, however you received it, it's a learned behavior. So I think there's an edge. Well, one is there's a human element, right? Like I feel, and this is my opinion, I don't feel like white people owe us anything, right? I don't feel like they have to be compassionate towards us. I don't feel like they owe us that, but I feel like personally we owe it to ourselves, right? Because to your point, Rose, like we've already suffered enough. It's like, God damn, like we can't even like take care of our own. So I think that's where it starts, right? Like the human element, you know, towards each other, right? I think Black folks, we sometimes can be self-destructive, right? Unintentionally sometimes, right? Intentionally sometimes. And I think that's part of the issue, you know.
I honestly, as you're talking, I'm still sitting here, wheels turning, and I think I've experienced more colorism now that I understand the definition of the word among my own people than I have racism in the 43 years that I've been alive. My father was a lot older, came from the South. He came here with that attitude, like F them, all white people.
Yeah, he's from the Jim Crow South, right? It's a different era.
That's what it was. But me growing up here, I had more empathy from people who were not of my culture than I ever had from the people within my culture growing up. And that,
you know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Not at all. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm good.
I was gonna say, and excuse me for having to depart for a moment. The thing that I wonder about most is how do we unlearn it? And the reason why I say how do we unlearn it is because, unfortunately, I think with this issue, it becomes a real big beauty standard, especially for Black men, right? So how do you unlearn standards and levels of beauty that you've been programmed to think, you know, like things like people who are not attractive? Because, and the reason why I say how do we unlearn this, because a lot of us as grown men walk around with this ideology with Black women on darker women not being attractive, and then that subconsciously gets poured into our children. For a lot of artists, I hear, well, not a lot, but some, it gets put into their art and they don't even necessarily realize it. So I wonder how we unlearn it, because a lot of us who are perpetuating colorism, I think, are influencers nowadays. You know what I'm saying? And we know this country isn't going to change the standard of beauty as far as Black people are concerned. So we can't rely on television shows and we can't rely on TV and the media to change what we define as beauty. So how do we reprogram those minds that have already been there? You get what I'm saying? Because they're teaching younger people the same shit.
Yeah, that's to Lynnette's point. That's Lynnette's point, right? She's saying it shows up, right? It shows like the lighter skinned person, like Viola Davis speaks extensively on this, right? Like how she's compared to Meryl Streep all the time, right? And she ran down her accolades, and bro, I didn't realize she was
popping.
I didn't realize she was that
savage,
awarded, right? Like I did not realize she was that awarded. I'm like, wow. And then she made a good point. She's like, you compare me to Meryl Streep. You say I'm Meryl Streep. You say this, then pay me like her.
Pay me like that, right? Give me the money. You know what I'm saying?
And she's one of the best in the business. So that goes back to Lynnette's point. It's like there's still an objective that greater media has, right? And like, yeah, Viola Davis, you dope, right? But you ain't Holly Berry dope, right? And only all that means is you ain't light skinned, right? You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
all that means,
that
right.
that image is more acceptable. So to your question, Prentice, how do we unlearn it? I think one, it starts from within, but I also think we're still fighting the machine, guys. Like we're still up against the machine. You know what I'm saying? So it's bigger than our households.
The system, P. We're still fighting the system. You know what I'm saying? P's poem. But to answer your question, kind of piggyback what Lynnette was doing, like when she sees the little black girl on TV with the puff, she reminds her son to recognize the beauty in this little dark-skinned girl. And I think just as an education or all this stuff, it starts in the home, bro. Like it really starts in the home. Like my daughter is very confident in being a proud black girl. You know what I'm saying? She's still lighter skinned, but she's half Puerto Rican, but she represents her blackness and she loves being black and she wants to wear her hair in the fro. She wants Dad, I want the 2 puffs. You know what I'm saying? Like she likes that. So she embraces her blackness and that's pretty dope. But I think just to the point, it starts in the home where accepting, loving who you are. And it's crazy because I mean, I'm patting myself on the back right now, but I had a conversation with my baby girl today. Her teacher asked her, what's one of the most important things your dad taught you? And the first thing she said was to love myself. You know what I'm saying? And that's powerful. You know what I'm saying? She said to love myself and to be my own person. Yeah. And to believe I can do whatever. It was 3 things. You know what I'm saying?
That's what stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like she retained that.
Right. And that shit is dope. But I wanna we can go all day, but I wanna jump. Go ahead. Let you go. And then I got some shit I'm writing down so we can get into it. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna piggyback. Basically kind of tear apart a little bit about what Chris was talking about. It is socially, it is everywhere. It's never not going to not be everywhere. But if we took a little bit more accountability and responsibility inside our homes for making that a standard, when I heard my sister say that she had to feel an extra empathy for the girl. So, so that you can get that kind of, because you want her to know that, but why do you got to feel guilty about making sure she knows that she's beautiful? Like, why do you have to have extra compassion? That should not be. That but you understand what I'm saying?
Right, so, yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
I think we don't give the family enough credit. We don't give it enough power because it has more power than we realize.
Right, absolutely.
The same way that we got wound, like the same way they wound us, we unwind. But it started with us. That's why he said it's learned behavior. We learned it.
But it's in any think about it, in any long-term traumatic experience or positive experience, it boils down to family traditional values, like what you learn at home. Think about it, dude shooting up the place had a bad past, was abused in the home, whatever. I mean, we know it's off subject, but like we learn these things at home, and those things carry on with us throughout our lives.
I don't want to speak for Lynnette, and I want to hear her rebuttal to everything that's been said, but not rebuttal, but just her thoughts. I agree with everything you said, Rose, but think about it, right? Like, just perspective. And you're going to be able to relate to this, right? So my parents did a damn good job of raising me, right? Like they did everything they could do within their power. They instilled the right values in me, all this shit. I still found a way to be a knucklehead. Like I still found a way to get arrested, right? I still found a way to join a gang because of outside influences. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, we understand that we have to do our part, but there's still that outside world that we can't control. And like I said, we're up against the machine. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, like we know as parents, right? Like there's only so much we can do because at a certain age, unfortunately, it's a fact, like their friends are going to have more influence at times, right? Not all the time, but at times, right? So if their friends have more influence, that means who are their friends being influenced by, right? Their friends are being, these days, we already know they're being influenced by what's on their phones. So what's on their phones, right? So that's all I'm saying. Like, yes, it's a fight that we have to fight internally first and foremost, but we're also up against, until we right-side it, right? It's gonna be an uphill climb, right? Like, and I get it. Like, I'm down for the fight. I'm just saying that's what we up against.
Isn't that the fucked up thing about just being black? Like, it's not just colorism, just in general. It's an uphill climb. Yeah. From birth, it's being black. Like, it's an uphill climb, which is fucked up.
And I don't want to go too far. I know you have a plan, but Prentice, I liked your question about what can we do. I think even before family is tapping into ourselves, really capturing thoughts as they're coming to fruition. Like when you feel drawn to something, I think, because the reality is the proximity to whiteness is what we celebrate, whether it is skin color or features or hair or the way you talk or where you live or where you've been. It's just the closer you are to white is the quiet thing.
Yeah.
We like it.
Yeah.
We like it. We applaud it. We celebrate it. We're trying to escape this other thing. And I think really to catch ourselves catch our own thoughts in real time. And the reality, and Belle, I want to piggyback off what you said. My mother could have called me beautiful every single day. All it would take is one little boy to say, you ugly and you nappy head, to hurt my feelings, right? Like it, don't matter what my mother said. Who cares? She thinks I'm amazing. And I wasn't even getting that kind of feedback as a little kid. It was just more about what I did. And so we know that's real. And we see it everywhere. People are always mad at little Kim for changing the way she looked, instead of being mad at the system that created the atmosphere that made her believe that there was some deficit that she was experiencing, that she couldn't see her beauty. She's not crazy for coming up with a solution to feel differently about herself. The world is crazy. So it is big, it is deep and far and wide. So I think the biggest thing we can do is to pay attention to our thoughts and to pay attention to what is on the TV. What are these kids watching? Who's on these magazines?
So here's
yes.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, Lynnette. The confusion part, I'm gonna throw this out there for y'all, food for thought, kind of help me out. So my son got back, my oldest, he spends half the year, he spends the school year in Florida. Well, he was with me all last year. He spent half of the year now in Florida. And even that's coming to an end. But anyway, he spends half of the year in Florida. In my household, for the last month and a half, we had to do some work because he came back on that light skin shit. He came back on I'm light skinned looking, because he's real fair skinned. His mother's Puerto Rican. So we had to dead that real quick, because all four of my kids are different shades, and we just talked about this yesterday. You know, all four of my kids are different shades, but as far as colorism goes in our house, it's not gonna. We dead that. We are all the same. You are not any better or worse than because of your skin tone. So that's established. Here's my issue, and I'm learning this through my oldest. Here he's solid. He gets the message here, meaning in California. But when he goes back to Florida and goes to that school where he's kind of highlighted and praised for being, before this year, he was one of the only Black kids in his school. So you know how that token Blackness is, and he boy had no coordination 2 years ago. None. Body functions just all off. He can do the weirdest dance move at that school, and they gonna highlight it and tell him he's super dope, and he over here, nice skin. And because people are not from our culture, they're promoting and advocating that, making him think that's dope. So when he came back home, I had to correct it. So my thing is that when we say it starts at home, I'm taking care of what needs to be taken care of in the home as far as teaching them about colorism. But like you said, we're fighting a system. And there's so many other children who he's going to be influenced by. You know what I'm saying? When he's not in the house, granted 3,000 miles away in Florida, till he's back here. And then it's almost like, I wonder now after this summer, if I'm going to have to redo, you know what I'm saying? Like dismantle some of the things he's going to be fed when he goes back. So I say all that to say, what do you think the answer is when you're taking care of that in your household? You get what I'm saying? Like when you're aware of those things that are popping in your head, but you're also aware and can already see the impact of how it impacts your family or your children away from.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense. And I think also there's an opportunity for a conversation with your son, because what he came back with something real. Someone gave him some feedback. Yeah. And he is experiencing himself out in the world, and he is making a distinction. Oh, I have something. Right. That this is currency. This is something. And I think acknowledging that that's a thing. Like we can shut down the language, but the reality is it's a thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's real. He didn't make it up. He didn't come home. He didn't bring that home. He didn't make that up. He didn't invent it. And so I think there's an opportunity for a conversation. Like, what do you think that means?
Right.
How come you're feeling this way? What's bringing these new thoughts to mind? Because you are amazing, and you are dope, and you are talented, and you are my baby, and you're wonderful. And what makes you think you're better than this child? Where are you getting
it? It's deeper. It's deeper.
Yeah. So and I think it's opportunity for a bigger question. I don't think this is something we can solve, but I think these conversations, like bringing it to light and really pausing and asking, how do I currently contribute to it? What am I doing that is feeding this machine? And it might not be, the answer might not be nothing. There might be something you are doing and you're coming and going, something you're saying, something you're paying attention to, something you don't even see. I think for my personal life, I know I spent my early years feeling very invisible. And I'm not sure if it was because I was a Black kid or because I was the dark little girl. I don't know what it was, but I did not feel seen. So there's a lot of things I do today to make sure these niggas remember me. They're gonna remember. They're gonna remember.
So
right.
Like so what she said is there's no real answer as long as we continue to do the check-ins. As long as we, you know, I think P with Justice going back to Florida, like it's imperative to check in, like the constant in specificity with your check-ins. Like you want to touch this topic again in a couple of months and see how he's feeling about it, or see what it's like when he's going back home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I definitely think Lynnette asking him. Okay, and so let me make it clear. It's not a superiority thing now.
Right.
Yet.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? And so that's my thing. It's not a superiority thing yet. It's something that he's identified and clearly has been fed into believing that this gives him something. You know what I mean? So what you said, Lynnette, about asking him, what is it about this light skin theory that has you, like, how does it have you feeling about yourself? And I think that's a great point. I can get into how, like, and to answer your question, you had asked me a question and I had to be a dad real quick. I do think that there are opportunities that I could have had unbeknownst to myself because of my complexion or my appearance. Absolutely. I would be dumb and to believe that that's not a possibility. The thing for me was because I'm so aware of it, and because and I think we is me and this brother, I'm not gonna say that anymore, but me and this Black man are in the same space, thriving, flourishing simultaneously. You get what I'm saying? You're not outside on the street trying to get in here. You're about to be on the show too. You get what I'm saying? So when we're both in the same room, about to have the same opportunity, I've just worked longer and harder than you. So obviously I have more privilege, you know, to me, because I'm trying to keep in mind what you said about, do you think you've been afforded opportunity? So let me keep that in mind when I say this, but this is how I genuinely feel. That just was not the time, in my opinion. I don't think there's ever a time, but out of all times, while we're both at the same table eating, I don't think it's time to criticize how much food I got on my plate, because you got a plate in front of you too.
Right.
It
was unfair and uncalled for.
Let me throw a different spin on this. Prentice, what if that had nothing to do with you?
I know it didn't. That's the thing. I know it didn't, but because of my work ethic, because of my desire to see other poets flourish too, you know, like, I'm not selfish with this. If I'm going, as many as people I can take with me are going. Because of that, it impacted me because it made me look at, like, the accomplishments and my success. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm not even talking about that though. Like, I'm not talking about, and maybe I'm misunderstanding you. I'm not saying you weren't deserving of everything that came, right? What I'm saying is, what if his comment had little to do about you and more to do about him, right?
Yeah,
like his his insecurities that he's dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Because of maybe, right, to Lynnette's point, like the damage that is done, like on him, right? Being a darker skinned man, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he's been taught that if he's not, again, I'm not saying that this is a fact. I'm saying maybe he was taught that, so this is where it shows up, right? So it's like, that's a learned behavior for him, right? Where it's like, if there's somebody that is of equal talent, right, in his mind, of equal talent, and he's light-skinned, that has more of an opportunity than him, it's because he's too dark. Not you're too light, right?
Right.
He's too dark.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And that is something that I had to take into consideration, that I did think about, and knowing just, some, I don't know much about the brother, but from what I've observed, I know that definitely could be a possibility. I think it just sucks that, whatever one brother may experience, they pass it down to another. One who may be oblivious to this concept now is hit with like this set of maybe issues or things to consider. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, like, I forgot who said it earlier, we're fighting the system.
I got some solution.
Okay, cousin.
Real quick, I am just excited about this conversation, but it came to a beginning and an end very quickly. You said, not with your awareness now, you can do something. You can, like, we have the ability to go to one another and be like, yo, what's going on?
The way this played out was something completely different. I'm not going to talk about. I'll tell you off camera, but it played out something.
It's on YouTube.
I'm not doing that no more. Anyways, listen. I want to double back, Lynnette. When you started speaking, and cousin, I want you to chime in a little bit more. When you started speaking and you mentioned this, you said it's most prevalent in your world in the dating arena. Now, I've been seeing a lot of memes lately, and one I just saw recently, like, I can't see myself marrying a girl who can't say nigga. Like, and it made me laugh. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's actually pretty fucking funny. But you said it's been prevalent in your world when it comes to dating. Tap in on that.
And I want to make clear. So I'm glad you brought that back so you can clear it. Sometimes we're speaking, and I don't know if I chose the right words, but I think when I'm a single person, I've always been single, and so I think when we're looking at people who are partnering, and as I'm paying attention to who people select or what choices people make, I am curious if some of the thoughts about, I think when people think of children, when they think of partnering with someone, they are considering what the blend of what they bring and this other person is going to produce. And so one of the things I imagine is that it's like, I think there can be questions. So I think to be completely honest, I don't have a hard time meeting people, and so I would be guessing as to reasons why things didn't connect. But I've definitely dated people who I was the darkest woman they ever dated, or people who frequently made comment about my chocolate skin to the point where it was almost like, are you, cool, I'm glad you like it, and also, is it okay? Is it a problem? And so I feel very aware that sometimes people are like, I don't know that I could rock with somebody long term who looks like you. And I don't think that's in the front of their mind. I think it's tucked away back here, because I don't think that's something a conscious person's going to say out loud. So I think that is more honest how I experience.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put myself on Front Street. I've been, I don't want to say attacked, but the finger's been pointed at me several times for not having had a Black girlfriend. and so I checked in with my cousins, and I'm just like, growing up where I'm from, Belle, you can attest to this. There weren't many Black women in my city. And the ones who were, I was like related to them.
Yeah.
This is my cousin, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, the ones who were around, I was, for the majority of them, the Black girls were all like family with me. And, I messed with a couple of them, but we never like, not family, sorry, but, messed with a couple of Black women.
Yeah, clarify.
I've never had a Black girlfriend. And that's not because I wasn't attracted to them, or it's just the environment I was in didn't, I won't say produce them, but they just weren't here. They were in Bloomfield. They were in Manchester. I was, growing up, I wasn't out in Bloomfield and Manchester, Belle. Windsor, like where the Black girls was at. Wow. You disagree?
It's kind of a cop-out. It's kind of a cop-out. Like, and I love you, right? It's kind of a cop-out, brother. You've been driving since you were 16, Chief.
Okay.
So It's kind of a cop out.
You wanted to get you a black girl, you could have. No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but I agree with you're right. Like, it was predominantly Puerto Rican. Like, literally, if you look up, I looked up the demographics the other day. It's like 47% Hispanic in where we're from. But that being said, I still managed to find one. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that wasn't related to you. But my point is, I don't want to make this about you because it's not about you, right? I do feel there is some ownership that you should own in that, right? Because, bro, we've been all over, like literally, like all over the state.
In our adult life, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, again,
Chris, let me help you. Back to what Lynnette was saying. Truthfully, it is subconsciously. That's a thing. That's a thing. For longevity, you start to think about what things are going to look like in the future. First of all, there's a lot of us from where we come from weren't even taught that. We weren't even taught what intimate relationships are supposed to look like. We weren't even taught that, you know, what was the purpose for you. I can't even, we can go on.
No,
but some of us didn't have that environment. Being him, I could just imagine a lot of the black girls, that's a different relationship. It's way familiar. There's a different intimacy there. So going out and looking for the only thing that reflects the closeness of your cousins, your aunts, and that's it. That's a subconsciously, it's like, okay, there's a different level I have to come with. And there's a lot going on there, trust me. But
yeah,
and now that you are aware of it, it should be something you think about.
No, and that's,
you know.
Listen, I'm
hopefully
thoroughly aware of it now.
Because you still single.
Let me ask you a question, and I know why I'm asking this, but I'm not gonna say it. I'll tell you when we're not recording. Do you think? Okay, you're all about your people. You love being black. You love being a black man. Do you think that you growing up in that environment has an impact on the women you're interested in today?
No.
Well, okay. You realize that's like contradictory to what you just said, Chief.
What do you mean?
And again, I don't want this to be about you, because at the end of the day, like my son is half Puerto Rican. My daughter's all black, but my son's half Puerto Rican, right? But I do think it has an impact on you, right? Like, again, I just gave you the current day statistics. It's like almost 50% Hispanic. So there's going to be more, regardless of the race, there's going to be more, the black women aren't going to be represented as much as the other races based on demographics, right? So all I'm saying is, I do think it impacted you. Now, it could impact you in a lot of different ways. It can impact you to yearn only black girls because there's none available, right? Mm-hmm. Or it can impact you like, look, I'm gonna take the path of least resistance. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild Spanish joints. I'm about to bag something over here, right? Like, that's the other option.
I think I've been going off of, just present state and being where I'm at and opportunity. I'm in an environment, women there. Okay, here we go.
But that's the only point I'm making. So my point is, you prove my point. Like, it did shape your outlook, and that's it. That's not a negative or positive thing. It just shaped your outlook.
Even more than that.
And I see it in some of your preferences. Like I see it. So I see it in your Cali preferences.
Okay.
So
it's just not Cali though, Prentice. But anyway.
It stands out to me.
Those happen to be people I have been connected to.
Oh, that was different.
The channels. That's like people I'm connected to, though. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. I mean,
look, man, I don't want to make. I'm not trying to.
We're not getting on.
Yeah,
I'm not afraid of the hot seat. So I mean, here we are. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead, Lynnette. Wait, Lynnette got the finger up. You know what that means? Shut up. I got something to say.
I just have a question. I want to make two comments. One, I love how you all are interacting with each other as brothers, and how gentle you're being. So I'm going to follow your lead with the gentleness. I'm going to take your
being nice.
And I think I am curious, Chief, how honest you are being with yourself. Because here's the thing. I was born in Wilbraham, Massachusetts. It's a lily white cul-de-sac.
Oh, Wilbraham? Okay, Western Mass.
Okay, so I'm not from where you're from, but I'm from where you're from, right? And so I think my options probably look something like yours.
You could have went to Springfield, Lynnette.
Yeah, I did. This is what I did. So what I'm saying is, and I think what we are gently not saying is, it is quite possible, Chief, that when you are looking at women, it is geography makes it easier. But what draws you, what you are attracted to initially, before you know their personality, before you know their heart, before you know how they'll treat you, you are looking at them. Right. And I'm imagining that you are attracted to what you see. And a part of that, if they have never been Black, I ain't gonna blast your age, but you good and grown now, right? Mm-hmm. So in all these years of dating, you have never had a Black girlfriend. That is not because of geography.
Girlfriend. I've dated Black women. There's levels to relationships, you know what I'm saying? So
dated? That's very loose, bro.
Bro.
Hey, I like this. I like this right now. I like
that's
this.
Very loose.
We're not gonna have that conversation, but let's just say this. You're right. I do have a visual thing that I like, but it's not like I'm opposed to Black women. That's not what y'all saying to me. I'm I'm anti-Black women. That's not the case.
No.
That's how you're receiving it. Nobody said that.
I'm not applying that you anti-Black women at all. I'm applying, like, what I'm saying is, I think this conversation is interesting because when I think on our conversation yesterday on the phone or certain things, I can see the environment you grew up in certain preferences or certain interactions you've had with women out here in Cali. And that's all I know. You know what I'm saying? Bill, like I ain't seen a nigga nowhere else. So I seen them out here, you know what I'm saying?
But what you saw is accurate.
I'm not denying that at all.
No, all we're saying, Chief, and again, I don't even want to talk about this. So, like, I'd rather change the subject because I don't like having you on the spot like this, right?
Yeah,
I think
so let me change it up. Let me change it up a little bit because as you guys are talking, again, we're getting more and more in depth into this definition of colorism. That's real. Uh-huh. And the more we talk about it, the more you can kind of own it. I got some, how do you say it? I'm prejudiced, I'm color. What's the word? What do we use when we own it?
In regards to the colorism aspect?
Yeah. Accountability?
No, just saying it like you can't
you don't call yourself racist. It's racist
in terms of colorism.
So
and how you define it.
Now we got
it'll be prejudice.
Okay, so now I understand that I have prejudices, and those prejudices are a lot deeper than just color. And now I got to start to examine where it comes from, how it affects me day to day, because this is my cousin now. And again, not talking about his situation anymore, but like my situation, I got 2 kids I gave birth to, and their father is light skinned. And when I met him, I wasn't even, looking for a relationship. The truth of the matter is I ended up positioning myself the way that I did to be with this person because of the treatment I was getting from the girls around me. True. I'm a colorist. I didn't realize that until just now, but I took that opportunity to piss them off because I was tired of being called the ugly one always, though I'm the only educated one, though I was the only one who had some kind of moral background. I did know where my mom and my dad was, no matter what. We being real, like, okay, but I was treated so horribly that I took that opportunity to find the finest light-skinned, pretty boy, long, hair down to, and I did literally became whatever I needed. And it wasn't even about him. It was about the treatment these girls were, and I wanted to prove the point. Okay, you got hair, you're cute, your body shape is different, but I got him.
Right. And this is what you're saying is what you are doing is you're being really honest about what your experience. And I think when people have a partner, their partner reflects how they feel about themselves. And sometimes I can't speak for y'all, but sometimes people want trophy. They want somebody next to them.
And again, at the time, I would have justified that to anybody who was in my position. They would have helped me to validate that. But today it's bigger than that. It's right. Me and where I am and what I thought of myself at the time. And again, I didn't have anybody to tell me that then. It took many years of heartache and pain because with that light skin came all his light skin issues too.
hey, that's colorism right there though. right?
No, right.
But I get it. I got two lights.
But it's real.
See, but that's it.
It's real.
Here's the interesting dynamic, though.
This is our point of contention, Val. This is where I'm like that. That is not color. It's prejudice.
See, no, but it is, because why isn't it black issues, right? What you're saying is that dark skinned people don't have light skin issues.
No, that's
No,
not.
I was experiencing black girl dark skin issues. This is what I'm telling you. My cousin just told you when I was young. I am the darkest skinned person in our family. Yeah. Uncle Nelson was. Say it again. My mom was. Okay, so we're back. But I am literally that person, right? And all of them grew up, and I was helping with the hair. I got a picture, right? Chris, you probably was at the party with me and Nikki. They dressed us both alike. My cousin is half Dominican, half black. She got curls down forever, but we got the same hairdo. I got the two little buckshot braids in the top. And it was our birthday, and I felt horrible. The entire day I was forced to take pictures. If you see the pictures now, I'm still talking about it with my therapist. But the reality is they put me in that predicament. It wasn't my choice. So the feelings that came with that, who did I have around me to tell me about my cousins and what they look like? Or you understand what I'm saying? You
were comparing yourself, right? Like, and that's the thing, Lynnette. All I'm saying is, like, it's a divide. Right, like that's all. It's a divide. Like if we're calling it light skin issues, right? Like you're separating us. You see what I'm saying? And that's all I'm saying. Like I don't know how. And hey, if there isn't, I don't think prejudice is the right word. I think the only thing that can describe it is colorism by definition, right? Because you're saying you have these issues because you're light skinned. You're in your light skin feelings, right? Like, or whatever, like all the taglines that happen. And it's like, so what you're saying is what you're implying is that light skinned people are soft, right? Emotional, right? Or all these things. And again, I'm not saying that you're saying this per se. I'm saying this is the perception.
I hear you. And I don't want to get stuck on the semantics, because honestly, I am not disagreeing with what you're saying. It's a problem. But I think where I'm also having a problem with is almost saying that this is something we are doing to ourselves. And I think in addition to the work, we are doing it to ourselves, but it's not just us. And I think to take it out of dating realm, recently, did you see the trailer for the new movie with Regina King and Idris Elba? It's a Western. It's gonna come out.
Yes.
Okay. So it's a big deal. It's coming out in the fall, and there's a woman playing Mary Fields. Have you heard about this? Mm-hmm. So Stagecoach Mary is a character in the movie, but a real person. And there are photographs of her. And she is broad and dark and intense, and she is being played by Zazie Beetz. And I don't know if you know who that is. She plays on Atlanta as the girlfriend. She is fair and slim, and I believe she's biracial. Mm-hmm. And I think even the choice in casting this historical person, not a fictitious character, but
that's fair.
Deliberate.
Someone who looks nothing
like the original.
That's fair.
Right, is a problem. And I don't know that we are doing this, but there's something where we are agreeing that this woman, and I'm not saying she's not talented or didn't work hard or doesn't deserve the work, right? But I'm saying they had to overlook someone who literally would look like this person.
Yeah.
And these are the problems. These are the things that
I agree with you 100%. And I also know that we didn't invent colorism, right? No. Like this was something that was done to us, like Prentice said, in my opinion, intentionally or unintentionally, don't matter, the result was still the same, to divide us, to separate us, right? Because how could we, and again, not to go too deep back in the slave times, but how could we ever take over if we can't even get together ourselves? Right. And that's still present today. That's all I'm saying.
It's like you said it, like we've been saying all that first episode in Black AF. What was the theme? It's because
of slavery. Yeah.
Because of slavery.
Most
of the issues black people go through can be trickled back down to slavery. It's because of slavery. Yo, listen, we've gone far too long. We might even have to break this episode up into 2 different episodes. We can double back on this conversation again because I think it was really, really good.
I want to.
I think we might split this in 2 episodes because it's really, really, I think we're like over an hour, some change right now, but we'll see how it goes, see what the feedback is like. I can see the comments now going in, but
I love the organic conversation though. Like I never spoke to Lynnette, and this was a great conversation, Lynnette. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
Rose, I always like talking to you. I don't talk to you enough.
With that being said, let's jump into let's take, a minute or less. Final thoughts. Lynnette, we'll let you go first. Final thoughts on the conversation.
I'm really glad to be here. And I think it just highlights that there's a lot of work to do, but there's also a lot of willingness to do the work. Yeah. So I am optimistic about what we as Black people do to make things better for each other and ourselves.
Hella dope. Prentice.
I don't know. This got my head in a lot of different places. You know what I mean? Like I heard a lot of different viewpoints that I haven't even, I think, even considered. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what my final thought is. I need to figure some shit out.
Okay. Bellhead.
I think this was great, man. Like this was great. I love talking to Black people about Black challenges. You know what I'm saying? And again, I think we said too, it's like, hey, we're not gonna have a conclusion, but start the dialogue, right? Like and express differences of opinion, right? It doesn't mean one's right or one's wrong, right? It's just I respect you, so I respect your opinion, right? It may not be mine. So I think that's where we got to get to as a people, is just hearing and listening, right? And understanding that though your experience may not be mine, I can't invalidate your experience because I didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? So that's all.
Cousin Rosa.
I love it. No, I just think this is a very good use of my adult time. Thank y'all for inviting me. And I'm open to continuing the conversation and the willingness. I appreciate it. Doesn't happen enough amongst us, amongst our people as a whole. It doesn't. So I'm glad that it is happening.
All right. For me, I think, I took a lot in from it, but I think a good point was, one, don't be afraid to put yourself on the hot seat for growth purposes. Like put yourself on the hot seat and here, get around people you trust who will tell it to you straight, whether it be delicate or not. I know we've had some much more intense conversations outside of this, and don't be afraid to dissect yourself and grow, because oftentimes we are our hardest critics, but we're also our most stubborn analysts, if you will, and when it comes to self-assessment. So I think it's important to get out the mirror sometime and sit in front of some people who will tell you the truth.
You could probably edit this out, but you know what I think? We'll get a lot of clickbait if we titled this episode "Why Chief Don't Like Black Girls."
You trying to kill him, bro?
I'm gonna leave that in there too.
Do him like that.
You want to get him canceled out here.
Oh my God, man!
I do not condone black death. No.
That was just man.
We've had this conversation before. Nevertheless, yo, I really do appreciate this conversation. I think it was real dope. I'm glad you were able to time in, P, and get here, handle with your kids, raising 4 them things. Johnson, appreciate you. When we post edit, we'll put your IG handles underneath so people can get at you or whatever, and we'll go from there. But per usual, y'all, we always end the show with do us all a favor and hug a Black man today, a Black man and a woman today.
Hug a Black man and a woman today.
And tomorrow.
And tomorrow, B.
We out, y'all.
Peace.